How's it going, everyone? Welcome to episode 15 of the ControllerCast. This is actually part two of our total length 4.5 hour discussion of The Last of Us Part 2. Part 1 was episode 14. If you haven't listened to that, go check that out. It'll kind of tie everything together pretty nicely if you watch that coming into this one. But yeah, just go ahead and enjoy these last 2 hours of this discussion that we had. Just as a reminder, we're not going to be putting out any episodes after this one in July, just because, July is a pretty busy month for all of us, with John getting married and a few of us going on vacation. So it's really hard to match up all of our schedules. So expect us to be back in August, start of August, and we'll keep on going with episode 16 starting then. So thank you, everyone. Enjoy. All right, so now we can start talking about Abby's game. I want to start off with a really dumb point of conversation, but it is a point of conversation. And it's just worth going into because people have issues with it. That is, what do you guys think of Abby's masculinity? Her being a very strong woman, because another thing, like as people have said, people think this is the Naughty Dog agenda. They want to,
The wokeness.
the wokeness. Specifically, the people I talked to that didn't play the game, but argued with me about this game for hours on end. He mentioned the Abby muscles and was talking about how it just seemed like they're trying to make a point, and that like there's no way that a woman could be that strong, like in the apocalypse or whatever. And I'm like, bro, she's literally like the WLF's top person. But I don't know. Like thoughts on this? Is this Naughty Dog coming in with the wokeness, coming not shitting on all of us with the strong woman? She's not trans as well. That's people think just because she's strong she's trans. But thoughts on this? What are your guys' thoughts on Abby's muscles? I have no issues with it whatsoever.
I honestly feel like it's realistic. Like I feel
like a lot of too.
I feel like a lot of women in this time are gonna make their own way. Like they're
if
gonna
anything, Ellie's build is more unrealistic because she's so skinny and all the stuff she can pull off.
Because a lot of women in this time are doing a lot more than they like any person would do now. Like you're out there killing people, you're out there building stuff, building like civilizations, being a soldier basically. Like that's
totally realistic.
Yeah, you're gonna have muscles like that. So I mean, I thought like Dina and Ellie, you'd think they would be a little more muscular for like the time and civilization that they're living in.
And it's not like something that's just also brushed over and it's like, oh, you gotta she's just super strong. Like they use her strength and her build as like a mentioning characteristic. Like later on in the game, when they're trying to track her through Santa Barbara, they're like, hey, girl just came through here, built like an ox.
She's able to move objects by her own. Like
muscles as big as mine.
Doesn't need help.
Like the big dude literally pointed at his bicep and he was like, muscles like mine?
Yeah, literally. But Andrew, you have any thoughts on this? On people getting angry or any?
No, I gave my 2 cents earlier. I don't get it. I feel like Parker said, like they're doing a lot more in this time, so having more masculine females makes sense.
Yeah. But like kind of going right off the bat with like day one, Parker, I want you to share this too. Like I know you have some thoughts on the WLF home base. Go for it.
The WLF home base, the Centurylink Field, dude. I had to take like 10 screenshots on the PS4.
Yeah, you were freaking out on stream. I remember that.
Dude, I was just so blown away because it looked real. Like if you guys have ever seen CenturyLink Stadium like in a football game, like on TV, that's what it looks like. The stadium is literally built exactly how like the real life stadium is. So that was really, really just great attention to detail on Naughty Dog's part. It's literally what CenturyLink Field would be in an apocalyptic. It's used as a shelter for all of these WLF soldiers, because literally the suites up top, they're all they have a bunch of beds in them, and they're used to house all of these WLF soldiers. And in the main eating area where you would go to like get a hot dog or like a drink at a game, that's where everybody's lining up to get their food, and that's where the cafeteria is. That's where everybody meets up to talk like assignments and all that stuff. So it's
It's
literally
badass and it's realistic.
it's literally Centurylink Field in an apocalyptic. I had to take so many screenshots. I couldn't, like, I had to take a moment and just stop and just like appreciate the scenery. It was absolutely breathtaking. Best looking part in the game by far. I didn't know what you guys had to say about this, John and Andrew.
Yeah, I thought it was
go ahead.
cool. I just thought it was like realistic. I think that'd be the easiest course of action in a city like that is take over the stadium, use it as a shelter. I just thought it was cool from that regard. And as much football as I do watch, I didn't really like notice if the stadium was like 1-to-1 besides the name. I'm sure it was with how Naughty Dog is
dude.
with attention to detail.
Dude, the bleachers are exactly the same. And the press boxes, yeah, they're all the same. It's just that things are a little bit crumbly. You know, things are kind of falling apart,
Rusty.
but it's literally realistic. It's literally what it would be in like 100 years from now in an apocalyptic, like zombie infested world. So, yeah.
I think it's cool. And this whole scene also just, it highlights the
building.
fact that Abby's a badass. She is basically, besides gosh, what's the actual leader of the
Isaac.
WLFs? Yeah,
Isaac.
besides Isaac, she's the top dog. I mean, she's his right hand person essentially.
Yeah.
But it builds Abby up as like a really nice person too, because she's interacting with people and they're like, "Hey, Abby, hey,
She's a
what's up?"
human. She's a human.
She's a yeah, exactly.
like
I keep saying it, dude. This game is so human and it's so real and raw. I just love everything about it.
And even this is like where it starts setting in the seeds. I think everyone in Abby's crew has survivor's guilt, because like everyone talks about like, yeah, I don't know about that, how he handled that Joel situation. Like even they're like, yeah, we're not, I don't know, maybe we could have done that differently, you know? And like they're talking about that and they're arguing, you know, that comes up a lot of times. That's kind of the main dividing factor between everyone in Abby's group, is that they experienced this really traumatic event and they're all kind of coping with it in different ways. Like Owen, you see how Owen's coping with it. He's like just kind of fucked off and he's like trying to stay to himself, and you know, like it's that whole thing is probably making him question everything. Just the level of violence he's seeing every day. He's just like sick of it, and we get to that later. But I was surprised by how long Abby's day one is. It's really long, especially for the fact that there's not like an open world sequence. The story from here is, you know, they're going to the Saravina Hotel to do a check-in with people that are getting fucked up. And, you know, Mel, Manny, Abby, they go there and we get to see a lot of people are dying on the WLF side, you know, and we're getting to see that it's already kind of like, oh, we're going to see how people are reacting to Ellie and the scars coming through and killing a bunch of them. And we get to see Nora there too and alive, and she's taking care of people because she's a doctor, and she leaves Mel aside and pulls Manny and Abby aside, and she's like, yeah, Owen's gone AWOL, and like we think that he killed Danny. And they're like, oh shit, like, okay. And then we see, lo and behold, finally, we see Isaac. And I think his intro is pretty badass. Like with him, they walk in and it's like he's interrogating that dude. And I don't know if you guys know this. I think Isaac's actor, his name is Jeffrey Wright. He's actually like a Hollywood actor, and he's actually going to be Commissioner Gordon in the Batman movie coming up. So
What?
So Isaac is Commissioner Gordon, the future Commissioner Gordon.
That's insane.
That's amazing.
And I think Isaac is very effectively used and very sparingly used. Like they build up Isaac very well through like all those notes through the first half of the game, and then you finally see him and you're like, this guy runs shit. Like this guy is running everything. And he tells Abby not to go find Owen. And he's like, you think Danny used his last breath to lie to me? Because Danny tells him that like Owen shot him or something. But she goes anyways. But I guess I want to ask you guys, like, kind of what was it like, seeing the more inner workings of the WLF and finally seeing Isaac for the first time?
I think it was cool to see him for the first time because he was this guy that everybody you had like on every collectible, you had seen his name, you had heard his name everywhere, and now you finally see him and it's like, damn, like he's in this like office that like overlooks everything, and it's like, damn, he really is like the king of the castle here.
Yeah.
Like, geez.
What about you guys, Parker?
But yeah, the WLF soldiers, all you really knew about them before this was that you had to run away from them and get away from their dogs. Now you get to see the inner workings of it and who's orchestrating the crew. I thought that was really cool. You're kind of just at a different perspective. That's really the goal of this part of the game, is to really just get you that different perspective and to show you the inner workings of the WLF rather than just being the enemy. You see how they
have kids in the stadium. There's like classes. There's, a society of people instead of just soldiers.
Yeah, it's literally just people trying to survive, and that's what you're seeing from that perspective.
I remember just thinking in this sequence of events, I was like, okay, what are they going to do with Isaac? Because they're making him out to kind of seem like a dictator almost, like not a great leader, scary, like you don't want to be on his bad side. So at this point in the game, I was just wondering what direction they were going to go. But I thought it was really cool. Yeah, because like you said, for how little screen time he has, he's used extremely effectively. And, I think even in that first scene, it's talked about the coming war between the Scars and the WLF. And so at that point, you kind of get an idea of where it's heading. And it also it makes him seem like a bad guy because he's like, we got to kill every last one of them. And they're planning to like raid the Scar Island. But yeah, Isaac is badass. He's badass in all the wrong ways.
Yeah, and then from there, like we jump to essentially Abby's going through the city and she gets captured by the Scars. And there's that really badass sequence where, we see Yara and Lev get introduced, and the whole hanging scene and the scene everyone thought was Ellie's mom. But that scene is badass. That's also, I recognize, was another one-shot scene. That entire like hanging sequence and happens in one shot. And I love the like straight transition into gameplay. Like Abby gets up and she's like picks up the hammer, and right away they start coming right out of the dark. And
that's one of the hardest fights, I think, in the game. For me, that was one of the hardest fights, was after she's hanging and stuff.
Yeah, but that's like a case where I think the cinematography is like super cool. Like you're just in this one lit area and everything's coming out of the darkness and you're just like fighting it. It's super cool to me, I thought.
Another anxiety-inducing sequence of events.
Yeah.
You knew Abby was going to survive, but how?
Yeah, and oh my god, it was so brutal watching Yara get her like fucking arm smashed in. I was like,
I thought it was done for her after that.
Crushed, dude.
I thought she was totally dead.
Like, can we talk about how brutal this game is? Like, this game is violent. Like,
it's disgusting. This is one of the like hardest scenes to watch because you see the other people hanging and they've got their guts like gutted.
Yeah.
Like everything's hanging out and it looks so real. It's just and like Abby's struggling. You see her struggling on the rope, and like I always put myself in the character's shoes. So I was like, oh, just imagine like hanging from that rope for 2 minutes. And she choked that bitch out while doing it. Dude, Abby is badass. I started to love Abby by this point in the game.
Yeah, and I think one thing in general is like I think Abby has a lot of the cooler moments in the story. Like this is probably the most badass moment at the end of day one, but each day has a pretty epic scene in my opinion. And then she takes them to safety and essentially leaves them behind, and goes to the aquarium and finds Owen. And this is actually one of my favorite moments in the game. Not the sex scene at the end, but Owen's conversation. I feel like this is like the best understanding of Owen as a character, and like I love the line where he's just like I'm tired, Abby. Like I'm fucking tired of fighting over land I don't give a fuck about, or just like he's just like I'm done. Like, you know, or that where he's talking about how he saw that scar and that old and it was an old man, and he wasn't fighting back, and it's just like he just looked like he was ready, and I was just like, damn, dude, like what a fucking holy shit, like. And even then, like, dude, this scene is really good. The more I'm thinking about it right now, this scene is really, really good because it's just like, and even then, we get to see Owen be very critical of Abby, where it's like, oh, like, what do you want me to do? Should I go find the people that killed my family? Should I torture them and, you know, slowly hurt them like you did? Like,
right. It highlights the fact that it's happened to everyone.
Yeah, and it's like, not, yeah, you know, like, people, like, I'm sorry, but this game does not just try to paint Abby as the good person. Like, multiple people in her own crew call her a piece of shit. And I think this whole conversation made me love Owen as a character. Like, because it just felt very human. Like, but what did you guys think? Obviously, and then they fuck afterwards, but what did you guys think?
Was this the original scene, like when Abby's first introduced to Owen's like version of the aquarium, and they start doing like archery?
It was
practice?
after the aquarium.
No, this is when they're in the boat. This is like right before they have sex.
Yep. So what I really liked from this portion of the game, like I thought the aquarium was just absolutely beautiful, because when you first see it, it's just like, whoa, Owen put a lot of time into making this his own and making this like his little hideout. But the conversation after that, you learn a lot. Like Owen's basically talked about escaping to Santa Barbara because of like, and Abby thinks it's just a rumor that the Fireflies are there. So we're wondering if it's even worth it in the first place to try to reunite with these people. So it's you're learning what Owen wants to do and why he's getting kind of sick of the bullshit. Like,
he literally has the most sense. He has the most sense of any character in the game, really.
Like, if I were in the same situation, I'd say the same thing. Like, I am completely done fighting over this bullshit that's not even like
matters to me.
It doesn't
says
matter
a lot
to me
about the world. It says a lot about the world we live in today.
Like, why am I
history came about?
Like, why am I uniting?
Repeating human history post-apocalypse?
Why am I uniting with this cult to do something that I don't even believe in? You know?
Yeah.
It's just a lot of kind of soul searching, and
this game is a lot of soul searching.
It's like, oh, dude, just this part of the game, I absolutely loved how dark everything was. Not like story-wise, but just like the scenery. Like everything was just just kind of dimly lit. So it kind of gave you the creepy feeling in the first place.
And I feel like this conversation also like sums up like where a lot of these characters are at. Like a lot of these characters are trying to figure themselves out and their place and everything, you know? Like Owen doesn't think his place is here. And also one thing I want to point out, you can also see in the flashbacks for Abby, she's also not muscular in those early flashbacks, because that's like early on in the training, and you can tell
it was like after her dad died.
Yeah, and it's like you know, like she's so like every time they try to be at the aquarium, she's like, let's go back and train. Like, I want to train, because she's like she has her goal. She knows what her goal is, and her goal is to try to find Joel. And like they both use the same line on each other, like Owen with trying to find the Fireflies and her trying to find Joel, like where I think it's like, it's a hunch, I gotta seek it out, or something like that, you know, where they both use that on each other. And then we get the first kind of dream sequence almost. It's like very short, but you know, where she's walking down the hallway. I love the scene where she's walking down the hospital hallway in her dream. and she opens the door, and it's and it's Yara and Lev hanging from the trees. That scene is like super dark, and it like zooms in on their face. It's just like, dude, this game is so dark. Like, but then she wakes up and
Yeah, they didn't have to show that, but they did.
Yeah, dude, this game is brutal. And then yeah, from there she goes and rescues them because she feels like she has some weight on her shoulders for it. And day 2 is really about saving Yara, trying to get those supplies, and we get a really good sequence, really, and in its entirety, with the skyscraper sequence, with like with her crossing that bridge. That's like one of my favorite scenes in the game. Like it's cool because it's not like epic, it's like scary, like crossing that bridge. And it's like Abby is scared of heights, and if you move the camera and look down, the camera starts like zooming out, and she starts breathing really heavy, and it's like a really nice detail. And we also, throughout this entire day, we get to see, first of all, we start seeing that parallel between the first game, Joel and Ellie, Abby and Lev, and we starting to see a little more descriptions and explanations of the Seraphites / Scars, like how their thing works. We find out that why Lev was kicked out, and I guess there's a lot to unpack up until this point, through the skyscraper sequence. But yeah, let's talk about it, I guess. I think it's really interesting to see how like religion can like almost take away some self-identity. I feel like that's like what kind of they're talking about or trying to hone in at. And yeah, we learned that Lev is trans. That's why he got kicked out.
Used to be Lily.
Yeah, and
Yes.
I don't know if you guys know this, but there was some people, I know I'm gonna say, people were upset because
Oh man.
because the Seraphites called Lev Lily, and people were upset about that because they're like, oh, they like put Lev's quote unquote dead name in it, and I'm like, are you serious? Like, these are the people that are trying to kill him. Like,
And that's the point that Naughty Dog was trying to make,
yeah,
is that like
but-
the religious aspect kind of took away from Lev's identity.
Yeah, but what do you guys think about like that, like kind of their commentary on religion, and I guess the whole skyscraper sequence too? Because I think that's like a really big highlight of the game. Like that's super, like that's one of the iconic moments of the game, I feel like.
I think the skyscraper scene like kind of like makes you remember like, hey, like Abby is a human, like she has like fears and stuff, and like she might seem like this, big muscular like tough girl, but like then she's like, terrified to walk across like a scaffolding, like because it's so high up in the air. Like I think it like reinforces that like human element of Abby, and like it makes you remember like, hey, like no matter how strong she is, she still has like very like obvious weaknesses in certain situations, which I think is interesting, and it brings another dynamic into her character.
Yeah,
I also remember the camera going fucking insane playing that part while you were crawling across. Like, there was just times where I was like, swear, I'm pointing my analog stick straight forward, and she literally just tumbles off and
Yeah.
falls. Like, oh my god, what do we
Like
got?
so wobbly.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, it just makes her so nervous that it makes it hard to control.
Yeah, but it's so perfect because it's so accurate.
Yeah, it felt realistic, and it definitely I died like 5 to 6 times just crossing that because of this weird wobbly camera angles. But
I think it's cool too, just the like sky city essentially, and the pathways
that they're
the
using as
stars were
bridges.
able to. That was super cool. Just them talking about that was interesting, I thought.
What do you guys think about the quote unquote like religious commentary?
I remember one scene where I think Abby picked up a religious item, and I remember Lev saying, I think reading our Bible could really benefit you. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah. I think the interesting thing is how she's being ostracized by he's being ostracized by the community, and still
yeah, he still kind of buys into
he
that
still
belief.
buys into the beliefs. Yeah.
So that's one thing I noticed. Because Abby's kind of critical of it. She's like, what did she say again? I don't remember, but I remember her being critical of the beliefs and kind of just wanting to go her own way. But Lev still kind of buys into it, even though he really was shunned from the Scar community. So I thought that aspect was really something that you could really dive into and think about. Why sometimes when you believe in a certain religion, it can take away from your self-identity, like you were referring to, Arcel. Like sometimes you can kind of lose yourself when you kind of believe in that higher power. But it's kind of like I don't want to say a cult, but like when people come
It's a cult.
together.
In the game it is.
Yeah.
In the game, it literally is a cult.
Terrifying.
So it kind of draws those parallels to real life. Like, do these kind of religious groups just act as these cults? I don't know. It's maybe something Naughty Dog's trying to hint at.
It was like a more fleshed out version of the cult that they were starting in the first game. The people eating cult. A way more fleshed out version of that. But it made sense that there was going to be some religious cult and that the leader of it, or the goddess, was a person that lived in that time.
I think the craziest part is you never see her. Well, she's a martyr, obviously, she's dead, but like I think it's interesting you never come across her. Like I think that's one of the greatest parts about this game is like the world building. Like it's like it feels a lot like this is how things would go if we were living in a apocalypse, you know.
It's insane.
But like, what is it? I think it's very. I don't know if you guys know this, but Lev's actor, he's also trans, and his story is actually very similar to the character in the game, where he was part of he had a Mormon upbringing, and he came out as trans, and his family ostracized him for it.
What?
So like, it's like, you know, like, yeah, we're talking about a fantasy world here, but like,
how the hell does Naughty Dog do it, dude?
Yeah, like this is like, you know, these are real stories that you can apply to like real life. But yeah, I think I think it's very in depth. It's very interesting about how he's being ostracized, but he's still accepting of the faith because it helps guide. You know, there's tenets about it that still guide him, and there's a very good line where it's like, you know, where they're talking about like, you know, we weren't even killing people until after the prophet died. Like people are misconstruing our texts, and they're interpreting it and using it to justify bad actions, you know, which is like, that's literally what happens with religion now, like, and throughout the entirety of history. Like,
exactly.
Like, you know, there's so many people just interpret that, that stuff and use it to harm people, which is, you know, not obviously what the intention was, but it's sad that that's how things descend into, which is, I guess, very telling of humanity. But but from there, we get back to the hospital after that sequence, and we get to see Vita Girl. We get to see why Abby was kind of got in trouble, because she's like, I need supplies, and they're like, yeah, that's horseshit. And it's funny because, you know, while you're playing as Ellie, I don't know if I didn't touch on this, but when you're playing as Ellie, like, you get these hints, you know, when you're in the hospital in day 2, they're talking about how Abby's locked up or how Abby escaped. And then even when you first see the scars in the forest for Ellie day 2, like they're like, did you see what happened to Yara and Lily? Like, where, like, yeah, they're crazy for doing that. Like, so like you get like bits and pieces from each story, you know, like, and it's kind of, I don't know if you guys were trying to do this, but like trying to piece together like, oh, Abby's getting to a hospital right now. Like, where is Ellie during this? Because like you see Nora's still alive, and it's like, so, you know, like it's kind of interesting to be like in your head piece together the timeline of like where each character is and what's happening.
Pulp Fiction effect.
Yeah, literally. But we get you know, Nora's like, hey, we haven't cleared out the basement, and you could go down to the basement, and in following tradition of Last of Us 1,
PTSD.
basements Yeah, basements are literally the worst place to ever go in this universe because
This is a terrifying part of the game.
This is
Yeah.
the hardest too.
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
I don't think it was the hardest, but let's
It
talk
was
about
awful, dude. Oh my
because
god,
we
it
get
was
the
so
introduction.
hard.
Yeah, we get the
It was
introduction to
terrible.
the craziest enemy in the game, the Rat King.
Patient zero.
Yeah, it's ground zero too. Like that's also super interesting. Like the hospital is like, ground zero for everything. Let's share, guys. I actually didn't think this fight was that hard. I just spammed the living shit out of like all my ammo, like, and I was able to go through it. I totally didn't realize that there's a piece of the Rat King that broke off, and like you have to fight that second part like a little bit later. I didn't realize that was also the Rat King. I thought it was like a stalker. So I was like, why the fuck is this guy not dying? Like I was like unloading.
Yes, dude. I ran out of ammo on that thing. Like when I
But
got through it.
that whole sequence is so badass. Like when she grabs the supplies and you're like running through the doors and like trying to get away from it. Like it's insane. But what do you guys think? I know we all have, I'm sure, opinions on the Rat King and how
It
that
was the
played out.
part that made me rage the most in the game. It was like the part where I had to like take a break and I was like, oh my, like that's like I think where I took like what, because this is when I did like the whole back half in one day. I like, this is the part where I was like, okay, this is a good lunch break time. Like just completely getting reamed by this fucking Rat King. Like it was, and I ended up having to lower the difficulty just to get past it because I don't know
Damn.
if I had a bad setup going in like for ammo, but God, I ran out so many times. It was awful.
Yeah, I had to pick like luckily I found flamethrower ammo that saved me. That's what like got me to kill. Like I used all the ammo that was on the tables and all that I had, but I luckily found this flamethrower ammo, used the last of it, and that got the Rat King. So
Damn.
that was like what on my 10th try.
How'd you do on the second part? If you
The
guys
second-
were running out of ammo on the first part.
I had just ran away and picked a bunch up. I also had some stuns, thank God, so I could just strike it. So
I had to be super slow and
Yeah.
deliberate about it because I had low supplies too. I don't know what happened before the Rat King, if there were a shit ton of infected just in the basement.
yeah,
I
there
can't
were
remember.
there were clickers and just stuff throughout the hospital basement that you had to get through to find the supplies. Like
I would
there-
debate this basement scene is probably more terrifying than the first game's basement
Yes.
scene, the
Oh,
main
by
one.
Sure.
by
Because in
far.
the first
Dude.
one, you don't have to really like worry about like this like one hit death thing just like chasing you literally everywhere and like oh
Dude,
my
the Rat King, there's nothing else like it in The Last of Us. It was kind of insane to see too, because there's nothing else like it. Like, what is it? Is it a
It's
bloater that's been a bloater for years? Has the bloater
it's
like
patient
I-
zero.
grabbed
lit-
other?
I think
It's literally
uh,
a bloater with like 5 infected attached to it. It's fucking
I think
crazy.
it's like the amalgamation of multiple infected that were just like in
Yeah,
that
it's
basement.
just a ton of different infected pieced together that's just been like growing for like years and years and years.
Yeah, and there was another infected that was a little bit different too, that like threw gas at you, right?
Yeah, and that's actually one thing worth like they're really good with the world building is the two new infected in this game. They have some sort of explanation for it. Like Rat King makes sense. Like Ground Zero, a bunch of different people fused together. But with the other one, the Shambler, the one who throws gas at you, they make a good like. They never like confirm it, but they say like it probably has to do with the fact that like it's always raining in Seattle, and there's probably been some sort of mutation with the rain and the mold and like that creating shamblers. So there's always like some sort of explanation for okay, why are these in this game and why weren't they in the Last of Us 1? So I think they're really smart with that. But I guess
Yeah, it took
John,
me like 27 tries to beat it.
Oh god, dude, it took
I'm not
me
even kidding. It
so
was
many
ridiculous.
times. I got so fed up with that part. Oh my god.
Dude, after this part of the game, anytime I saw a clicker, I was like, "Oh, thank God, it's just a clicker."
Yeah, same.
I used
Like
to
nothing
hate.
seemed as bad.
Yeah, I
after
used
that.
to hate. I used to hate going against the clickers, but after this, I was like, "Oh, thank God, I'm not facing a thing that's throwing fucking gas at me right now."
Yeah, clickers were one of the hardest enemies in the first game, and then in the second game they weren't shit.
Yeah,
Like
they
you
weren't.
you could still stab them. You wouldn't die immediately.
Well, you could just shoot them in the head like once, and they're gone. Like You don't
Yeah,
even have
that
to worry
too.
about it.
Yeah. Also, one thing, like, I feel like it was intentional by Naughty Dog to make the second half of this game a lot similar to Last of Us 1. Like, we have a grown up, younger kid dynamic, and that's with like Abby and Lev. And then also, like, notice how in Abby's sections of the game, she's more aggressive compared to Ellie. Ellie's gameplay is a lot more stealth based. Abby's is a lot more aggressive, more action based. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but also she also has to use shivs like Joel did in the first game. Like, did you guys
Yeah,
notice?
she was a lot like her gameplay felt like you were playing as Joel, and
Yeah.
Ellie felt like Ellie.
Yeah. Did you guys notice that, Andrew or Parker?
No, I never really thought of that while I was playing.
Yeah. Like,
I didn't
we're,
know that.
yeah.
I think that's part of the 11-hour marathon.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, from there, that's essentially the end of day 2. Now we're getting into the final day of Ellie, and it's really split into 2 sections or 3 sections. But I think the first section is badass. Lev goes to go get his mom, see if, because yeah, they're all going to Santa Barbara. They're like Owen, being the great guy, the great human being Owen is. He's like, you guys should come with us to Santa Barbara. And then Mel comes in and is like, yeah, I'm gonna go to Santa Barbara as well, but I'm not going if you're going, Abby, because you're a shithole, and I don't believe this act. Like, she thinks it's an act that Abby's putting up, um, which I think is just like another thing. Like, all these characters are disagreeing with each other, because then at the same time, Yara and Lev are arguing about going to Santa Barbara, and Lev goes to the island to go try to see if his mom will come or something like that. So then the first half of this level is trying to get to the island, and we get one of the most badass sequences. This might be my favorite Abby sequence in the game, actually. Um, and that's actually the sniper sequence. I think it's like super epic. You're like crawling through the mud on the ground while like the sniper's shooting at you, and then you have to use that like uh that table, or what was it? That cart to like kind of move through.
Yes.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
it was like a pallet with a bunch of boxes on it that you had to
Yeah, yeah,
use
yeah.
as a shield. But that scene was hard.
Did you die a lot?
Yes, because literally, anytime you'd go between cover, you could die in one shot. Like, you have to be super deliberate, like, with how you move around. Because literally, if you're moving between cover and you're just a little too slow doing it, and you're like crouched down, you're dead. So, I thought this was actually really hard, but not nearly as hard as that Rat King.
Yeah, and at this point, did you like before you see them, did you realize it was Tommy? I had
I
a fe-
didn't. I did not until like it really zoomed in on his face and you were about to push him off the boat.
Yeah,
So I was kind of questioning whether that was Tommy or not because you do see Tommy later. I don't want to spoil anything, but I thought he was dead after this scene. Like they pushed him in the water and he looked to be gone. So I was like,
yeah.
oh, they just killed him.
Oh, yeah, I knew it was Tommy before I even saw him, because they talk about it in Ellie Day 3, like, oh, there's a guy sniping people, and like, Jesse goes off, splits off from Ellie to go save the sniper, and they're even talking about it, like, oh, that's got to be Tommy. So like when the sniper sequence started happening, I was like, oh my god, this is Tommy, like like we're about to go after Tommy, and then we get to see we see Manny die. Um, he has a super sudden death, and I love that scene because like he dies, and then she breaks through the door, and there's just like there's a shot of like her, and she's like there's all this blood all over her face, and it's just a crazy sequence. Because it's like, dude, I'm fighting Tommy right now. Like,
I wish I
but
would have known that like beforehand so I could like build up the hype. Like, oh shit, I'm
Think
going
about
after.
how brutal it would have been if they made you kill Joel at the beginning.
oh,
They
like gameplay.
Yeah.
they totally could have done that with how crazy this game
Dude.
was. They totally could have done that.
So what do you guys
Missed
think of the
opportunity.
What do you guys think of the sniper sequence?
I thought it was really difficult. If I remember right, the first time, I think I died quite a bit here too. but it was really cool. And to see that it was Tommy, I mean, I knew he was alive because of the end
Ellie.
of Ellie. Yeah, I knew he was alive after that. But like when it first started, I was like, oh shit, is Lev gonna die? Is that gonna be because like you said, you don't see Lev in day 3 Ellie. You just have in Abby's stuff. So I was thinking like, oh shit, is Lev gonna die? Is it gonna go on and on with this revenge shit? Like, are Abby and Ellie gonna just kill each other? But I thought it was a really cool sequence.
Yeah, and then from there we get to go to the Scar Island, which is also cool because in terms of Seattle iconography, like the island is where the Space Needle is, which I think is super cool. That their island is literally mainland Seattle, but um, I thought the whole Haven sequence was really cool because you get to see like what their homes are like and what their community is like. And then also like another epic Abbey sequence, like when you ride through the flaming village in the on the horse.
Oh my god, dude,
That's
I took so many screenshots
Yeah.
in the photo mode during that sequence. It was insane.
And also
the
like in the
frame
middle.
rate really dropped here during
Oh,
Haven.
really?
Yeah, like
In
in my experience, it like dropped down like 10 frames. It was just so laggy going through
Yeah.
Haven.
I
and
actually
then-
didn't really have any frames dropping during
But
that.
and then also right before this, I totally forgot to mention. We see Yara and Isaac die back to back, which is also like everyone's death is very rapid in this game. What did you guys think of Yara dying and Isaac dying, and also I guess the whole Haven sequence? I thought it was all really well done.
Not to mention Abby's dog. That
Well,
was sad.
That's a little bit later. That's after this.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, for me, it wasn't a whole lot different. Like you kind of get the same emotional response, I feel like, to Owen and Mel dying in Ellie's section as you do in Abby's. I think it's kind of the same. So for me, it was just like, okay.
And it's like, well, shit. Well, one of my favorite lines actually is in this also, where like Lev is like, your people just killed Yara, and she's like you're my people, like not the WLF or whatever, which I think is like like a really humanizing moment for Abby.
Yeah, Abby's kind of on that Owen mentality now, where she's like, screw Isaac, screw the WLF. What really matters is
She's on that
who's
Joel
actually
mentality.
there for you. Yeah.
I feel like Mel
Yeah,
talked some
dude.
sense into her.
Yeah, she's on that Joel mentality, man. I'm telling you, this
Man.
Abby section of the game is like, it's very parallel to the first game. But yeah, from there we get that really wild boss fight. That dude like refuses to die at the end of that section. That hand-to-hand fight at the end of Haven, which I thought was like, I was like, dude, this guy will not die. You're like slashing the shit out of him.
I think it was actually a girl. The big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a girl too.
Seriously?
I'm pretty sure. No, the bald one was I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
But
No, I thought it was the lady with the braided hair. And was the hammer, like with the hammer, was that earlier?
yeah, that's earlier.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there were
But,
two big
yeah,
bads
yeah.
from
But essentially from there we leave the Scar Island and we go back to the aquarium, and we know what's gonna happen. But we get to see it, and like it still sucks seeing Abby react to it, like because you see like like her last conversation with Owen was not like a positive one, because I remember like it's the whole love triangle thing going on with them, right? It's like, we can figure this out, we can work this out, and like they end on a bad note, and they still she comes back and she like literally throws up seeing them like dead, but she sees the map that Ellie left, and then she knows where to go. So I guess like, did that add any more weight to Owen and Mel's death, like seeing Abby react to it?
not too much for me, just because I think, like I said, it was kind of the same emotional response from Ellie and Abby in that sense,
Both
where
freaked out for different
yeah,
reasons.
yeah. But I swear you see Alice dead at that point.
Yeah,
Abby's
yeah.
dog.
Then you
Yeah.
see Alice dead because Ellie killed.
That was the saddest part for me because you get to see more of the attachment to her dog, and as a dog lover, I was really upset by that. But yeah, I thought it did the same thing that Ellie's response did. I'm pretty sure they both threw up in that moment or gagged about it.
Ellie gagged. She didn't throw up, but she was like hyperventilating. But yeah, Abby threw up.
Yeah. Again, I mean, it's nice to see Abby's point of view from that too, just because she was really attached to Owen and she felt for Mel and she knew she was an asshole. Abby knew she was an asshole. She knew it. But her and Owen had a relationship before Owen and Mel.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more to the love triangle too than we've talked about. But like, I really like that whole relationship with Mel, Owen, and Abby because Owen's such a good guy, but he's basically cheating on Mel. And Abby's kind of a bad person in all regards. And then Mel's just along for the ride. She's pregnant. There's a pregnant chick on both sides of the coin. And, we'll get into it, but Abby does one thing and Ellie does another when it comes to how the pregnant ladies, I guess, are treated.
But okay, yeah. So so now we get back to the climax. We're finally back to the climax, at least what we think is the climax, the theater, and we see that Lev is there, and she kills Jesse, and then I thought Tommy was fucking dead. I'm not gonna lie. And when she shot Tommy, I was like, damn, they just killed Tommy like that. Like, damn, like Tommy's like, well, I was like, damn, rip to Tommy. Like, but then the craziest part to me is Ellie runs away and you keep playing as Abby here. And I was like, once you started playing, I literally paused and I was like, holy shit. Like,
am I gonna have to kill Ellie right now?
Yeah.
Is that what I'm gonna have to do?
Yeah, but yeah, like with my reaction to that, I literally paused it and I was just like, I literally was like, oh my fucking God. Like, we're going here. Like, this is about to happen. Like, we know what's about to happen once you keep playing. Like you're about to fight Ellie. So like, what were your guys' thoughts on that moment? Like right before the fight happens, kind of that moment where you realize what you have to do.
I was
Kind of a
just thinking,
parallel to
I don't
the
want to do
first-
this. That's
yeah,
what I was
kind of a
thinking.
parallel to the first game. Like, you're forced to kill all the doctors. I didn't want to do that in the first game. This game, you're forced to fight Ellie. Like, you're shooting at her immediately, even before the hand-to-hand stuff. You're shooting at her, and it's like, holy shit, am I gonna kill Ellie? And I didn't want to. But what did you think, Andrew?
I mean, I thought it was interesting being able to like fight like your main character throughout like the whole series. Like Ellie's just like there, and all of a sudden you're like, a part of me wanted just like the pure chaos aspect to just be able to just like end Ellie right there. Like I wanted to see what, like, damn, if you end Ellie, like what will happen? Like I don't know, and I think maybe it's part of like the spirit of the game where you get so invested, because like I hated Abby. But then once I got done with Abby, I hated Ellie, and I was like, well, shit, there is no good person here. I hate both of these assholes. Like they're both sacks of shit, and I wish I could like just like a murder suicide ass spot. That's just the end. But
yeah,
I mean it was crazy having to fight Ellie, and I mean, yeah, I got very emotionally invested in that part, just because it's like, I don't know. Part of me wanted like chaos to ensue. Like I wanted to see Naughty Dog throw another wrench in the game, be like, dude, now you killed Ellie, and now what do you do? Now Abby's the main character of the series. Like,
yeah, and I was
and
like,
now Dina is gonna go after Abby or whatever.
But I was like, dude, when that started happening, I was like, dude, Naughty Dog has the biggest fucking balls in the in the entire gaming
their
industry.
balls in a huge ass wagon, because holy shit.
Also, that fight was still super uncomfortable. Like, dude, when you would sneak up on Ellie and beat the shit out of her. Like I
Yeah,
remember
literally had to punch her. Yeah, you had to fucking punch her.
there's one part that I was like a little squeamish at where Abby is choking Ellie out, and like near the end of that, you literally see like Ellie's eyes like rolling back, and it's like, and then she like pulls out the knife and stabs Abby, obviously. But
Yes, I was so relieved when Ellie pulled out that knife, dude. I was like, oh my god, thank God Abby did not keep
but I
going
was
there.
yeah, I was like so
Ooh.
conflicted because I was just like, I want both these people to just shake hands or something. Like,
Yes.
but and also it's funny. I'm gonna actually differentiate from you guys here. This was definitely the hardest fight for me in the game. And for me, I like that because it was like, okay, if there's gonna be the hardest human enemy in the game, it's gotta be Ellie. Like, you know, like, and I thought her fight was, I died a lot. I died like 7 or 8 times doing Ellie. And I know you guys don't think she's as hard, but I was struggling. I got my ass kicked on that fight. But
Yeah, it took me like a few tries, but once I got the hang of what I was supposed to do, you really have to use the sound monitor. Like,
oh, the
really,
listen mode.
yeah, you have to use a listen mode a lot, or else you're just gonna die. So I figured that out pretty quick.
What do you guys think of the difficulty of the fight?
I actually think I only died once.
Yeah,
I don't
think
know
died
why. I
once
thought it
just
was
because I forgot. Like, I didn't know like you couldn't like be seen by Ellie, otherwise you're just like Gonzo.
Yeah, literally one shot dead.
So I played it. I only had to go through it twice. It took me 2 times to get through it.
Yes, I'm bad.
You're bad.
You
are
are
so
bad.
bad at video games.
You are bad.
It took me like 5 tries. Or
Hey,
Parker
no
bad
death
at
on
video
Ratchet.
games too.
Yeah, with you.
But what is it? Yeah, and then we get to the end of that scene. What did you guys think of the end where Abby doesn't kill? I mean, she breaks she breaks Ellie's arm, beats the shit out of Dina, and but she doesn't kill either of them because, you know, Lev kind of steps in and stops that. But what are you guys' thoughts on this?
I think it's another like example of like like they try to show like the humanity in Abby. Like she has a better conscience than Ellie. I mean, did Ellie know right when she shot Mel that she was pregnant? I don't think so, and that she didn't find out until like after she was dead. But I mean, the fact that like Abby can see that Ellie ruthlessly like murdered like her pregnant friend, and then like being able to like hold back from killing Dina to like get revenge is it's like character development. She's coming full circle.
Well, at first too, Abby's like, or Ellie says, "Oh, she's pregnant," and Abby's like, "Good." And she goes to slit the throat, and then Lev's like, "Abby, are you kidding me?" Like stops her right away. But it's so it's
Lev
so human.
Lev honestly saved Dina's life there.
And Ellie.
Lev
Yeah.
literally stopped that cycle for Abby at least.
Lev and Owen
Lev is a
best
real
supporting
MVP.
characters. Lev and Owen are main characters.
Break this cycle.
They are. They really are.
They're incredible.
Yeah.
Like they were the best supporting characters. I didn't
Yeah.
think I'd come out of the game loving 2 people that were not in the first.
Yeah, that much. Yeah. But yeah, they leave. And I thought, so from here on out, there's multiple times where I thought a certain shot was going to be the end of the game. For a split second, I thought that was the end.
They
Gonna
did
be
that
the
on
end.
purpose. The
Yeah.
Naughty Dog totally did that on purpose.
That's the first time I thought the game might have ended. But then they go to the farm. And this scene also, I think, hones in on a very untouched aspect that people don't talk about is like, I feel like this game's really less about revenge and more about trauma. Like, how do people deal with trauma? Like specifically, like Ellie at this point clearly has PTSD, like with the Joel death. Like, remember the when she's in the barn, and you know
she's herding the sheep in, and then she gets a flashback of Joel getting clubbed.
Yeah, and then you know she thinks that or she's like, I think, blaming herself for that, and it's like, you know, I think I can like share a little bit on this for like, because I worked in like mental health and things like that, where you know, people that have PTSD, it's like, I know like some people are like, why the fuck is like Ellie going back out again and like trying to get Abby, or like why is she so hell bent on this? Like, when you have like trauma and you have like PTSD, like you are so like, and you have something that triggers you like that, like you are so hell bent on like one thing that like you just get caught up into that like cycle of like, you know, being stuck on that thing that traumatized you and trying to resolve it. And it's like literally like people have said, like it's not until you you know, decide to move on and actively be like a participant in your own life that you can move on from that sort of stuff. So like Ellie's whole arc is like super, I think documenting of like PTSD and trauma. And like it, in retrospect, I don't even like, it makes total sense for me why she goes out to hunt Abby again one more time, because she's like literally traumatized. like her PTSD is like causing her to not live properly, and like she needs to go out one more time. But also in that,
I was gonna say real quick, it's highlighted. We didn't talk about it, but it's highlighted in the barn where the barn door like slams, and just that noise alone is enough to trigger her back to the moment where Joel gets whacked.
Yeah, so. And then going into the dance scene. Also, the dance scene was in E3. I was kind of waiting for when that scene was going to happen. It's actually playing right behind John right now. But I think this is a really heartbreaking scene, just because like this actually, when I almost teared up, was like when Joel steps in to help Ellie out, when he and she's like, "No one needs your fucking help, Joel," and he's just like, right, and he just turns around and walks off.
Okay.
Like I was like, damn, dude, that like fucking hit that one word, right? Like,
dude, at that point, I hated Ellie, dude. I hated her. I was like, she's a bitch to Joel, and she's killed so many people, like, and she's going back out after all of that shit, and after a year, to, like, she's gonna make the decision to go try and fucking kill Abby. Like, dude, I was pissed.
I was gonna, I guess, ask like, what do you guys think about really this lead up into the final sequence of the game, like her going out one more time? Because I think with the PTSD and trauma, which they were trying to really like hone in on, I think that's what they were trying to go for. Like her PTSD has fucked her up so much that she's like obsessed with this.
Well, and Tommy's influence too.
Oh yeah,
Tommy makes her feel like a piece of shit. She's like, "You made me a promise. You made me a promise, and now you're like,
guilt tripping her.
You got this kid, and you're in a farm, and you're all comfortable."
Yeah, and Tommy's eyes. Yeah, that also explains why Tommy is alive, because it looks like it, I guess, grazed his head. His eye, he doesn't have an eye. He's like eyeless. Or he's a one-eye man. Cotton Eye Joe. But yeah, like that's a really great scene, like where he's just guilt tripping her and she's just sitting there like freaking out. You can tell she's like freaking out about the whole situation. But what do you guys think about the whole farm sequence? Like, I mean, Andrew and Parker, like the flashback, I guess you could start there, and then also like her deciding to go back out again, or like Tommy.
I mean, I thought when the farm sequence started, like honestly, I thought that was like the end of the game. The first time I played it through, I was
damn,
they're just gonna leave it on this and make a fucking stupid ass part 3. Like they're gonna force a part 3 on us. And it's, I mean, I was glad that she ended up going back out and it wasn't the end of the game, because I think the ending actually like provided a little more closure. But I honestly thought it was the end of the game once that hit.
What about you, Parker?
Same here. Like, I was honestly like, it's when Tommy came over and he, after that conversation was over and Dina like screamed at him to leave, I was just thinking how much I hated Ellie at that time. I was like so pissed off because you disrespected Joel and now he's dead, and now you have to live with the trauma from that. And now you just sent Tommy out on the streets. You know, and you're not going to even try to avenge what Joel did for you. Like, you're just a disrespectful, like, little shit. So I was so pissed. I was so pissed at Ellie because of all that she didn't do for Joel at that moment. Like, I thought she was the antagonist for sure. You know, like
it's
it completely
actually
flipped.
See, that's like what it's interesting, because like I feel like I was in the opposite, where I was like, man, like I get why she ends up going back out. It makes sense to me because the trauma end of it. But I'm also like, man, like just stay here. You got a family. Like you can be good. And I actually thought Tommy was in the wrong, like for coming back and trying to guilt trip her. I was like, fuck Tommy, like like, and yeah, it makes sense because like he's got a broken, like got a fucked up leg, and he's lost an eye, and he's pissed off about it, and he's like probably divorcing his wife, like, but yeah, there's just it's like two completely different, like you, like me and Parker, right? Like perfect example. Me and Parker have completely conflicting views on this scene, but both are valid because it's like it's so gray, like what your opinions are on all these things happening. But they do eventually head out, and you play as Abby. This is the last time you play as Abby, and you find that what is it? That the Fireflies are alive, and that she can, they're at Catalina Island. Now, this is actually one thing I remember. I actually completely misinterpreted because they're talking about a round building in that radio about that's where the Fireflies are. And then when the Rattlers come in, they're also talking about how they're keeping the slaves in a round building. And I was like, wait, so was that like actually the Fireflies? Like I thought, oh, that's not the Fireflies. That was just the Rattlers pretending to be Fireflies. And like they're just picking, like they're just doing that to capture Abby. But I was actually wrong about that. They're completely separate things. I don't know if you guys also had that misinterpretation or thought that same thing, but did you guys, I don't know, like think about that? Or
That was totally what I thought. I thought Abby was just captured for good. Because as soon as she was done with the radio and she walked out of the house, she was pretty much beaten by that one guy and taken. Was Lev with her at that time? I'm trying to remember. Yeah, and
yeah, they were both together.
And Lev, that's where Lev died. Or no, Lev didn't die there. No. But I thought they were that was a fake radio call, and that they used that to capture Abby.
That's what I thought. Yeah, actually, you're right.
It's actually like kind of that. The final, like what the screen changes to once you beat the game, like that's actually a confirmation that they got to Catalina Island at the end. But she gets captured by fucking Guy Fieri. And then it cuts to Ellie, and you're trying to find Abby again. And one thing I thought was kind of interesting was that between that last Abby sequence and the last Ellie sequence, it's actually like months apart. The way it cuts at first, it makes you think like, oh, she's kind of like right on her trail, but she's not. And also one little extra tidbit, when Ellie gets hung upside down and fucked up, and she's like hanging upside down. Also, another thing playing into how fucked up she is, when she's actually upside down, and she's like kind of whispering like Abby. That character models actually are Abby and Lev, but while it's like kind of blurry, and then once the camera clears up, like it shows Guy Fieri, but they do a lot of like Naughty Dog has a lot of like subtle like kind of hints like that how bad Ellie is mentally now. Like she's thinking she's seeing Abby when she's seeing these other two guys, and then they're like, she came through here a few months ago. And the final Naughty Dog gauntlet for the finale of the game, having to get through the Rattlers.
One thing we got to point out, though,
I skipped over it,
is that when Guy Fieri's talking to Ellie, right? Ellie's asking him, "Where's Abby? Where's Abby?" And he tells her that, like, I'll tell you where Abby is, but you got to let me go free. he tells her where Abby is. And then Ellie just fucking shoots him in the head anyway.
Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious. Like, dude, you're an idiot for that one. Like, if you're gonna die anyway, you shouldn't have just said anything. But Arsenal, move on.
But then eventually all hell breaks loose at this like slave camp essentially, and we get to see Ellie get to Abby, and it looks like she's going to save Abby at first. Like she's like helping her escape, and oh god, like everything's so creepy near the end. Like,
Keeps
you know,
flashing back to Joel's dead face.
yeah, and then they get to the boat, and it's like looking like, and also I love this. I love that, you see at the end of the game that um, the boat is like, you're kind of wondering like, what is that boat on the main menu of the game? Um, and then you finally see at the very end that the boat is the boat at the end of the game, which I thought was really cool. But
Yeah,
then
that's super cool.
and then she puts the backpack down in the boat, and just for a second, then like all of a sudden, it shows like Joel's dead face, and then she like immediately goes, she's like, like, I'm not letting you leave, like, and
Yeah, she's like, I can't let you leave.
yeah,
She says it so like sad. Like it
yeah.
sounds so sad when she says it too.
And she like puts the knife up to like Lev, and it's like, oh my god, like, just let it go at this point. But like, why she's doing it, but also like, um, and then there's that fight at the end. I'm kind of curious what boat you guys are in for that fight, but um, right before she's about to kill him, um, she gets that she gets, a flash of Joel. Like, she's no longer thinking back to the bad memories. She's thinking to the good memories, and we're like, forgiveness, when she forgave Joel, and she lets Abby go. And she says a line that I think some people might interpret as like she's referencing Lev, but I think she's actually referencing Joel. Like, when gets off, she says, just take him. Like, she just says like, just take him. And I think she's referencing Joel in that, like, right after she lets Abby live. Because I think she's like kind of realizing she needs to let this whole thing go. And she leaves, but I guess, I don't know. I've been talking a lot. You guys talk.
It's just it makes me sad, dude. It made me sad because like Ellie literally lost everything. She left Dina. Like, we haven't gotten back to the farm yet, but she left Dina to go and do this. And Dina was like, no, stop. Like, you already got your revenge. Like, you killed all of her friends and shit. But Ellie wasn't satisfied. And it's so emotional too, because you do believe that it's gonna be somewhat of a happy ending, and Ellie's gonna let her go, and everyone's gonna learn something from this. But it's a more realistic world in The Last of Us. There's not gonna be happy endings. And it was, again, so human how Ellie was like, nope, like, I can't give it up. I can't give it up. You didn't give up killing Joel, Abby. You didn't give that up. I'm not giving this up. And okay, I'm gonna say quick, I thought it was ridiculous actually that after getting golemed and having her 2 fingers bitten off, Ellie is still not mad enough to kill Abby. If I would have gotten my fingers bitten off by this hoe, I would have been like, okay, that's it.
The thing
does
is,
it for me.
the fact that she didn't kill her though is a little bit confusing to me, because I feel like her whole goal of going out to Santa Barbara was, hey, I need to get rid of these thoughts I'm having. Like, I need to be able to sleep at night. So the fact that she let her go is a little confusing, because I think her PTSD is still kind of going to be there. Like, you let the person that killed Joel live.
To me, I feel like
so what'd you go there for?
To me, I feel like a lot of like Ellie's stuff is like not being able to like be in control of her own life, and like a lot of her like actions and stuff like come from that. And I feel like like I think her leaving Abby alive is like her taking control of her own life at that point, but also like like she's sparing that last bit of like humanity inside of herself. But what about you, Andrew? Like, what do you think about that final sequence between her and Abby? Like, what were your thoughts going on through that?
I mean, I would have liked to, see her just end it, but I also understand for the whole break the cycle thing. Like, it makes sense. Like, I just don't feel like Ellie's gonna get like closure, because I feel like throughout all the game and the first one, like, the ultimate way for people to get closure in this series is by killing the person that caused like whatever happened. So, I don't know. I'm kind of torn about the ending. I kind of wish like something would have happened. There would have been like an ultimatum, and it wouldn't have just been like left up to interpretation. But I guess that's just me, and that's why I don't. That's why I didn't rate this game.
Yeah, well, I think it's kind of like a parallel to the first game where it's like you go through this whole game with one objective, and then at the end the character changes their mind. Like it's a parallel to the first game. Like like
Yeah,
you get
I
through the
never
whole
thought of
thing.
it that way.
Like you get through the whole
That's
game and
true. I didn't think of it like that.
then and it's a little more ambiguous in this game why she changes her mind. But I think it's because she's like kind of she's finally accepting that like doing this isn't going to bring Joel back and she needs to move on. And this is like, and I think it also goes into like, it's her decision that she's keeping her alive or letting her live. That's her autonomy, but I don't know. Do you guys have any more thoughts on?
I don't know. I'm still kind of, I mean, at that point, when you're
It is
leaving
ambiguous.
Dina, you're leaving, she left everything behind to essentially appease her motive and Tommy just to not do it. I mean, if she ever sees Tommy again, Tommy's gonna hate her. If she sees Dina again, Dina's gonna hate her. Like, dude, you already lost absolutely everything. So in my mind, especially after getting your fucking fingers bit off, just kill her. Like that. And this is like my only complaint about the game, which is a positive to some people for storytelling, but for me, I just felt like I would have been a little bit more satisfied seeing Abby just get killed
Same
in
here.
that scene.
Yeah, same here. I thought that there needed to be, like Andrew said, there needed to be a little more closure there for Ellie. I'm not sure she got that with this ending.
Well, I feel like it would like kind of, if she killed
I don't know
Abby,
I don't know if the flashback made it obvious that Ellie was fine and dandy. To me, it
What?
didn't make it obvious.
Yeah,
because
same.
she didn't even apologize to Joel.
wait, what do you mean? Oh,
Or like she didn't forgive.
We'll get
Joel. I'm
to that in
sorry.
a sec. We'll get to that in a sec.
but yeah, I mean, I think it would go against, like, I feel like it would be like kind of antithetical to like a lot of the stuff going on in the game if she did kill Abby. Because it's like, I feel like a lot of the game is about like forgiveness and like, I feel like a lot of it is like trauma, forgiveness, perspective, like, and it's like, okay, if she kills Abby, it's like, okay, then you're kind of like doing the same thing. It's like Lev is Lev gonna come after her then, or like who's gonna come after her then? Like, and actually, I've actually heard Neil Druckmann talk about this, so I can kind of shed some light on it. Um, for a while, the decision was to have Abby killed, and they decided to not have her killed because what the original ending was going to be, I'm going to share this with you guys. The original ending of the game was going to have Abby die, and then Ellie would return back to the farm, and there would be like a WLF soldier or somebody there at the farm waiting to kill Ellie. And Ellie was like, and the guy would be like, this girl's just a kid. And like he spares her and like walks away. And they changed that because one, they felt like it was a conclusion of being made by someone that like a completely random character. Like, and they also felt like killing like Abby at the end would have been like like if the fact that she let her live is like, it shows that there's like a small bit of like hope for Ellie, like her humanity and like who she is as a person. I don't know what you guys think about, like, what do you guys thought about that, knowing more about that?
But she literally took
I
everything
think I would
away
have
from
preferred
Abby.
that ending.
She
little
literally
bit.
took everything away from Abby. Literally beat her to shit in in the water there by the
Who knows
boat.
if Abby survives after that?
Yeah,
I mean,
like
she was
She
cut
does-
to
she-
shit.
She does. That's what the ending
yeah.
title screen is, that she got to the island, the Firefly Island.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
But man, like she literally took everything away from Abby like throughout the course of the game. And like imagine like she's already probably living trauma from Ellie, you know? So
Yeah.
what would have been better for what would have been better for what's her name again? I'm stupid. Abby, duh.
Yeah.
There are lots of names.
This guy stinks.
Yeah.
Oh, brother.
Honestly, it might Abby might live with PTSD for the rest of her life because literally she saw, or she didn't see Ellie do it, but she saw the dead bodies of Mel and Owen, and like Ellie literally almost ended her life and like took everything away. So I think Abby's gonna live with that forever. Ellie might not have set her up for the best life.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. I mean, it's like
It's
I think
a
both- it's both
divisive
bad.
ending, I think.
Yeah, very divisive.
Yeah. But then we get back to the farm, and I think this where some of the most heartbreaking stuff is. Like, house is empty, everything's cleared out. She tries to play the guitar, and she can't play the guitar anymore because she lost her fingers. She can't play that song anymore, which is like super sad. And then we get the final, the final flashback of the game, which also puts into perspective, like, it's like about how I was saying earlier, kind of my theory about how like I think a lot of her frustration and anger comes from like her not being in control of her own life, because that last so the last flashback we see like her and Joel talking their final conversation, and we see that she is ready to forgive Joel, and Joel says that line that John was mentioning earlier, like, if the Lord gave me a second chance, I would do it all over again. And like but she says she would like to get onto the path of forgiving him. And I think that, but then that's the thing, she wants to start forgiving him, and she wants to start that path of forgiveness, but it's that right when she decides to do that, she gets even that taken away from her. Another thing, another decision lost to her. And I think her rage that drives her throughout the game is that she didn't get that closure with Joel, that like she was trying to start that path to closure and forgiveness, and she got it taken away from her. And I think she doesn't get that closure until she thinks about the same forgiveness she gave Joel at this flashback, that she gives Abby at the end, like understanding why everything happened and moving on. And I think, like one of the heartbreaking thing about the ending is like her leaving that guitar behind is like her leaving Joel behind, like her knowing that like she has to put Joel to bed essentially and move on and continue life without Joel. And that guitar to me like represents Joel, and that's actually the moment I teared up on after the fact. Like when I was thinking about the game the next day, I was thinking about like that ending scene and being like, damn, like her leaving that guitar behind, like it's, and her letting like Abby live and everything, like that's her, realizing she has to move on and she has to like put Joel to bed, essentially put Joel to rest. And that I thought was super heartbreaking. I actually did tear up thinking about that after the fact. And then obviously Beyond Desolation plays and the game cuts to black and ends. And also I want to say, I thought the final shot was actually going to be, there's 3 times I thought the final shot was going to happen. One, when she tries to play the guitar and can't play it, I thought that was going to be the final shot. Then I thought the final shot was going to be Joel in that flashback, because I thought, oh, they're going to end the game on a shot of Joel, just like they ended the game on a shot of Ellie from the first game. But then obviously the final shot is her walking off and leaving the guitar. And just like how the game began, the game ends on the shot of that guitar. That's how the game ends. So what are your guys' thoughts on the ending? I thought it was honestly, like, now that I've played it a second time, I think it's like honestly really beautiful. And it's like messy, obviously, but it's also like everyone in this game is disagreeing with each other and like has different opinions, and like she lets her live, and maybe we don't agree with that, but she did it for a reason, and I can see that reason. And obviously the ending flashback with Joel, but what are you guys' thoughts on that final flashback and the ending sequence?
I really enjoyed the final flashback. Like, I thought it was just one of those moments where you're just at peace. You're not fighting infected. You're not beating the shit out of anybody. you're kind of in just sitting on the porch with Joel, just singing and playing the guitar and just talking about like just life in general, you know, just like the best moments of The Last of Us come in those conversations. I feel like you just learn so much about the characters in those times. So I'm glad the game kind of ended on this flashback, because you kind of know how, on what terms Ellie and Joel ended on, and why Ellie has a motivation she did throughout the game, and kind of answers a
Makes
lot
you
of
happy
questions.
that at least they ended on a good note.
Yeah, it makes you like think, okay, at least Ellie has that to remember, so she doesn't like go completely crazy in the future. But I mean, I just the town of Jackson, and like anytime they have a flashback or a scene there where it's just Ellie and Joel, I mean, those are just some of the most peaceful moments of the game that just make you just take a breath and just enjoy it.
I thought it was nice just because, well, like most of the scenes with Joel and Ellie were kind of negative toward Joel until this last one. And it does seem like maybe a slight part of Ellie has finally forgiven Joel, because she's like, you know, I'm gonna try to forgive you. And Joel's like, I'd like that. And
I gotta. Oh,
it's just go ahead.
Sorry.
No,
I was
okay.
gonna say speaking into the graphics of this game, the amount of like subtle detail you could just see on Joel's face, like especially that final shot of Joel where he's just like, "Yep," and she walks off, and you just look at his face, like you can like that face can like that is like 1,000 words.
It
like,
tells a story. Yeah.
Like you
What
can
other
tell
game does that?
Like you can tell he's trying to keep his composure, but like he's relieved to have that conversation with her. Like it feels like you could tell there's like probably a burden of weight off of his shoulder. Like, yeah, keep going, John. Sorry, because I interrupted you.
No, you're good. No, I thought it was really beautiful, that last conversation and that last flashback. But to be honest, she couldn't have taken the guitar with her. Fuck, dude. Like I get
it's
it.
Her putting the bed. That's him. That's her moving on.
Yeah. But like for me, I guess maybe I just read the message wrong. It was like maybe instead of putting all of Joel to bed and putting all of that to rest, I think what she's just putting to rest is her negative feelings toward him and her negative feelings about his death. But like when I first watched it, and when I first saw her walk away from the house and walk away from the guitar, I kind of thought it was like she's just totally forgetting Joel completely. But I don't think that's necessarily the case per the flashback. I think it's just that she's forgetting all the negatives of the whole thing and everything that did happen with Joel. But it's a fucking piece of art, dude. This game is art, and it's more human than any other story I think that at least I can think of. It's an epic. It's 24 hours of straight storytelling. But what did you think, Andrew, about the last couple of scenes before the credits?
I mean, you guys basically took everything I was gonna say, but I mean, I think it ended well, all things considered. I think it sets up for maybe another game, but it's also in a spot where if they didn't make another game, I don't think anybody would like feel like there's loose ends. Like I feel like it ended pretty well. I mean, the game in general is just like you said, John, it's like 24 hours of just straight storytelling. It's just a marathon, and I think we can all attest to that just because of all of our activity tendencies on the back half of the game to just marathon it out and just do like basically just beat the entire back half of the game in one day or one sitting. Like I think that's just a testament to how well the story is set up and how well the game's set up and how addictive it is to just want to see the end of the game. Yeah, I mean, I love it. Game of the year for me last year, and I think it'll always stay in my top 10.
I I was gonna say really quick, and I know we're gonna get into predictions, but if they made a Last of Us 3, I'm calling it. Ellie is walking away from the farmhouse toward where Abby's at, and she's gonna serve her purpose. They're gonna find some doctors, and she's gonna serve her purpose. She's leaving Joel behind in the decision he made. That's my prediction. Putting it out there now. Neil Druckmann, take it.
I feel like I
Honestly,
can't.
I don't-
Parker, what's your thoughts on the ending?
like like after the scene where the boat goes off, I was a little pissed. I was like, I really do not like it if it ended on this note, you know. But after that final flashback scene, it kind of made me realize why Ellie did some of the things she did. You know, it makes you kind of think, like, man, I don't know. It's just like she's putting everything to bed, and there's finally some closure. Like when she leaves the guitar, there's finally some closure there. So honestly, I don't see how the Last of Us 3 would be executed if they did come out with another one. I'm not sure what they would do, but you could really do anything. Like if you're Naughty Dog, like from this point. So I don't know. Like they would really have to go in a different direction for the next game. I would be completely fine if it ended there. Like
It's funny because I'm in the same boat now with as the first time when I beat the first game, where it's like they could end the story here. They really could. But if they do make a third one, I trust them that they could. And
they could do anything they wanted.
And I also think that if they made a third one, it probably will not go in any way that we predict.
Right.
Well, he's gonna serve her purpose. It's gonna happen. If they make a third, she's going to the Fireflies. It's gonna happen.
If I would have to predict, that's what I would predict. That like she maybe like it finishes off, comes full circle with that. But I think
the trilogy.
Throw in 5 or 6 like plot twists and turns and deaths, and maybe you got yourself a correct prediction. But
I will say like this is also one of the few times where like having it just be a two-parter makes sense to me. Like these games both are very like they're opposites, but they also go right into each other. Very like there's a lot of comparison points. Like Neil Druckmann has said, the first game is about love and the second game is about hate. And like the first game I was talking to John is like this long linear journey from like across the country. It's a year-long journey. The second game is this very complicated story, all taking place within a few days, multiple characters, multiple perspectives, all in one city. And it's just like all, twisting and turning upon each other. It's like, but it's also, all the parallels. You play as Joel in the first game, it's kind of about Ellie. You play as Ellie in this game, it's kind of about Joel. Like there's a lot of like, I think poetic like comparison points between this game and the other game. And this game just, it enhances the first game, in my opinion. But Andrew, I guess I want to ask you, do you have any predictions for where The Last of Us 3 could go if they make one?
I honestly I have no idea where they go from here, just because we've seen two completely opposite ends of the spectrum. Like you said, the love and hate. I really have no idea where they go from here, if I'm being honest.
Mm-hmm.
They'll throw in a bunch of twists and turns we won't expect if they do. There's no way to predict it.
I guess and then I want to just ask about kind of the future of The Last of Us. Do you guys have any hopes and dreams for the TV show? Any predictions or thoughts on that?
I actually have no idea. Yeah, I hope it's good. That's really my only hope. I mean,
it's gonna be on HBO.
Yeah.
I hope it actually ties into the story. Like, if it did, that would be awesome. But I don't know if they will. Neil
Druckmann's involved, so it'll be well done, I'm sure.
Ooh, okay.
It's just about what direction they go, and I'm not sure if they've confirmed anything about the timeline. I think Ursula, you said that it would be during the first game.
I mean, it's going to be this. It's going to be the story of the first game.
just the exact same story of the first
No,
game?
like Neil's talked about how he, like Druckmann's talked about how like they obviously have to recontextualize and reevaluate like how certain things play out because it's a different medium and you have to play to the strengths of that medium as opposed to, the strengths of the video games. Like so he said things will probably play out differently or stuff like that, but like the blueprint is the story of the first game.
To me, it's kind of interesting how they're doing it in the first place. Like, I almost feel like it's not needed making a TV show, because what makes The Last of Us so amazing is what they are able to accomplish in a video game. Because the amount of money it would take to tell the same story in a TV show or a movie sense is ridiculous. All the clickers, all the CGI it would take, it's just I almost think that the show is kind of pointless. I hope it's good. I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah.
But it says a lot what The Last of Us was able to do just from a video game medium and telling the story and creating a artwork. It almost tarnishes The Last of Us for me just a little bit, because it's like they were able to do this with video games, and it's almost like it stands alone in its own category above
Mhm.
Traditional entertainment and how people tell stories. So I think it's unneeded, and
Yeah.
especially if they're doing the exact same story as the first game. I don't know. It
Yeah.
looks realistic enough as a video game.
Well, okay, one more thing I want to ask you guys, because originally this game was supposed to have factions too. So I want to ask you guys, what are your hopes and dreams for a factions 2? I'll say mine. I think, and expectations. I think it's going to be free to play. I think it's going to be PS4 and PS5. I bet it's going to have some of the multiplayer elements from the original factions, like the matches. I bet there's going to be like an open world / battle royale, and I think there could be like maybe some co-op missions. Who knows? But I'm like super excited for factions whenever it comes out. I hope it comes out this year, but Naughty Dog is putting a lot of work into it. What are your guys' expectations and thoughts or hopes for factions? Because it is coming.
I'm kind of hoping they do an open world thing, like the first day in Seattle for Ellie. I'd like to see like a 60-player lobby that's almost like a war zone, but with Last of Us gameplay.
Imagine
Did I
that
steal
game.
the words from your mouth, Parker?
Well, I was just about to say, like, I've never really gotten into factions, but I really hope it comes out before I have to give this PS4 back to Andrew. That's all I have to say on it.
I hope. Well, what is it? I mean, imagine The Last of Us 2's gameplay, but with like other people.
Yeah, dude, that would be spectacular.
What about you, Andrew?
I didn't play Factions 1, so I don't really know what to expect from Factions 2, but I think whatever they make, if they make it off the game engine, obviously it'll be good.
Yeah. Okay, so now let's kind of wrap it up. It's been a long conversation, but it's seeing the timer, it's 4:20 right now. Here, I want to ask you guys one more question. Give me your favorite moment from the game. I know that's probably hard, but I'm gonna say, favorite moment. I'm gonna probably say the switch when it shows Seattle day one again for the first time. But I would say some runner-ups would probably be like the flashbacks between Ellie and Joel, like when they revealed the truth. I think that's probably my runner-up when they had that conversation. Because I was waiting for like ever since Last of Us 1 finished, I was like, if they make a sequel, I want to see that conversation where he tells her the truth. So I would probably say the switch is like insane to me. Like that the Seattle slowly pops up day one. Gives me goosebumps. I love it. What about you, Tom?
I would say my favorite moment was probably oh shoot, I literally just had it. I don't know why I just lost it. Parker?
We'll come back to you. Yeah, Parker.
Yeah. I honestly, Arsenal, like the same thing, like around the switch time, like when you first popped up in like CenturyLink Field or the Seattle Stadium, all over again. Just kind of that time period before that and like transitioning into that was just kind of my favorite moment because there's a lot being thrown at you, but it wasn't like overwhelming. It was just kind of all coming together and you're starting to understand how people's motives are working, and you're kind of just in awe of what's about to happen.
I just remembered it. My favorite scene was actually the birthday scene in the museum, because it felt like the first game to me again. It felt like Ellie and Joel's relationship from the first game, which, you know, I got to sit on for 7 years, and then getting to see it fleshed out a little bit more, even more of a father-daughter relationship. I really liked seeing that, and just the dialogue between Joel and Ellie was hilarious throughout that entire sequence.
Also, the Space Museum is an honorable mention. Very honorable mention there.
What about you, Andrew?
I think my favorite moment / scene of the game was escaping the Haven Island with all the fire and you're on the horseback and stuff. I think that's definitely one of my most favorite sequences in all of video games. It was just like visually incredible. It was like the adrenaline was pumping. It was a good old time.
Awesome. Okay, now let's kind of get into our final thoughts. You guys, for this one, like you guys can go pretty in depth with this one. Like, so I'll start off. This is not the story that I think anyone expected they would take. But this is the story they told, and stepping away from it, Last of Us 1 and 2, like this feels so Last of Us. Like, you know, this morally gray, very human story, you know, where they show it's not all good and evil. And, you know, I think anyone like that didn't like the game, I said this in my Trophy Hunters post, like try the game out again. Like seriously, like away from the toxicity of the launch of this game. Because I think the story is very like open to interpretation, not necessarily like what happens, but how you can feel about it. And I think that it's interesting that I bet if anyone has an issue with something a character does in this game, a character in the game probably is on the same page as you as the player, which I think is like something super interesting because you don't see that in stories often where, you know, you don't know who's right and you don't know who to agree with and whose side you're on. It's just these events unfolding and it's really up to you as the player to be like, okay, what are my thoughts on what happened? You know, like what do I think is right and what is wrong? And I think, you know, like this level of storytelling is like, you barely ever see it. And I've never seen a story like this, you know, in a movie or a game, you know, like where you play, you know, where the main character dies and you're playing as, you know, you're playing as, you know, I guess another main character. And then halfway through you start playing as the quote unquote antagonist and you're seeing the other side of the story and you have to learn to like empathize and see like the full picture. And it makes you, and I think what, you know, a lot of people, you know, why there's a lot of controversy with this game is like, this game is meant to make you uncomfortable. It's meant to make you question your own thoughts, your own like motives, because, you know, there's so much one-sided, like people find, even in the real world, like people will always try to justify their own actions through whatever it is. And then like, it's really when you see the whole picture, sometimes you realize it's not as black and white as people like to make it out to be. I think just like the first game, I think this game is going to be a big piece of influence in the medium. But I think the influence of this game and the impact is not going to be felt as much until later on. I feel like it's going to be a few more years down the line. And even in like a year since the game came out, you can see the public opinion on this game has changed a decent amount. Like, you know, I were talking about that Muhammad guy, like he's not even getting the most likes anymore. You know, the people that are calling him a fucking idiot are the ones getting more likes than him. Like, and I think even if you check the public discourse, I think a lot more people are appreciative of this game now than they were last year. And I think that public positivity is only going to increase more and more. And I think there's this chance that years detached from this series, that the second game might actually be viewed as the better game, or as the better thing, the better of the two, because it is so complex and it is a market improvement on the first game objectively, in my opinion, in a lot of ways, like gameplay, graphics, performance. So obviously I'm singing this game's fucking praises. I think like no story in a game has stuck with me as strongly as this game story has. Like, where I'm literally like feel like I have PTSD from playing this game. Like, no game, like, that's such a rare echelon for any sort of medium to reach, in my opinion. Like, this game has issues. I think that the pacing is an issue, because the Switch can put it to a halt. I think the last level of the game is jarring because it's, you're uh, in a completely new setting after being in Seattle for 20 hours. Um, those are kind of my two things about it that I think are potential issues. But still, like, that aside, no, like, there's very, like, there's very few times in like life where you can like experience a piece of art like this and be as emotionally impacted. Like, I'm never going to forget this game. I'm never going to forget these two games or the stories they tell. And I think this, just like the Last of Us, it pushes the envelope forward for what video games as an entire medium can be. And I think this is one of the greats of this generation. And I think it's one of the greatest games of all time. And I think it joins Breath of the Wild, I would say Witcher 3 and Red Dead Redemption 2. Those are my 10 out of 10s of this generation. And this is definitely a 10 out of 10 in my opinion. I think it has a few flaws, but I think it is the benchmark. It is a masterpiece, and it sets the benchmark for video games. People will look at the craftsmanship on display in this game as a benchmark for video games as an entire art form moving forward, I think. And that's, if that's not a 10 out of 10, what is? Nothing is perfect. You can criticize anything. And this game, I do have criticisms of it, but this game's a masterpiece to me. And I think it will be remembered as, I think, one of the greats of this generation and one of the greatest of all time. And yeah, I love this game. 10 out of 10. It's in my top 5 games of all time, probably. Yeah, I think it's a masterpiece, 10 out of 10. And it's now I have to debate whether I like this one or the first one more. And I might be leaning towards this one now, which is crazy. So yeah, I went on for a little bit, but I kind of expect you guys to do the same. Kind of final encompassing thoughts. Andrew, you want to give us off?
Yeah, on this game, I mean, it is one, like you said, I'll never forget. And I mean, I'll definitely never forget it considering I played it twice, and the second time I played it all in one day. So I mean, geez, I don't know what to say that you didn't already pull from.
I want to hear it from you. I want to hear it.
Well, I think the thing I like the most about this game is the whole setting and atmosphere just kind of being like I felt throughout this whole thing, like Ellie and her crew, and then the wolves, and then the scars were like the last 3 groups like left on the entire planet, because it just seemed like the entire world was like revolving around these characters. It was like this is like the end of the story for humanity. And like it just like the whole like very depressing tone and the music and everything just set this like end of the world, like this is like the final act type like setting. Like it was just like you're just going and going and going, and it's just like you're just working towards this collective like end. I do agree. I think in my opinion, the final chapter was jarring, just because like you go from like this rainy, depressing, like dark toned area, and then you like show up on this island and it's like sunny, and there's like all these like new groups. So I think the ending kind of took me out of that like immersion which was really annoying. But I mean, I like the tone of the game. I like all the way the story went. I think it was great. And this will be a game that I'll probably remember forever, and it'll probably stay in my top 4 for a long time, if not for all of time. I mean, I can't even think of how another game company could come up with a game as impactful on me, especially like last year being like everybody locked down in COVID and you didn't really have anything to do. So I had like the maximum amount of time to like absorb everything in this game and like focus solely on this game. And I hope for humanity's sake, there is another pandemic we have to go through, but like, I don't even see like that part aside, like being immersed that well. Like, I don't see how any other game developer can make a more like emotionally impactful game and like an emotionally tolling game as Naughty Dog did with this. Definitely would give it a 10 out of 10. One of the all-time greats.
Parker?
So The Last of Us 2 is just The Last of Us 1 on crazy steroids with a million more twists and turns. I thought that The Last of Us 2, after playing it, was much more detailed, much more improved than the first game, honestly. And I gave the first game a 10 out of 10. The Last of Us 2 just pushes the envelope in so many ways: graphics, soundtrack, character development, plot development, plot twists. Like, everything is thrown at you in this game. The game makes you think one thing's gonna happen. Nope, you're completely wrong. You know, you're thrown through an emotional roller coaster, and I'm still throughout the rest
You're
of
going to
this
be thinking about this for days.
yeah, I'm gonna be thinking about this game for the rest of this week, probably. Like, there's just so many different things that you can connect to the real world too, like forgiveness, empathy, love, hate, like even religion. Like, you can really talk about. Is like this game is real life, like real life apocalypse, but it's so immersive that The Last of Us is probably the most immersive game that I've played in ages. Like, there's nothing else that could bring you into the game as much as The Last of Us does. This gets a clear-cut 10 out of 10 masterpiece. Like, I did not have a bad moment playing this game. My one complaint that I had is that you really figured combat out, and you could really get around a lot of obstacles pretty easily. But honestly, that's a nitpicky complaint. Like, there's so many, like, Naughty Dog can do whatever they want with this game, and I think I'd be happy. Like, I don't think there's a plot development that they could make that would make me angry. They always do it right. Everything's just so well done. This should be the benchmark for every game moving forward. 10 out of 10 masterpiece. What do you have to say, John?
Yeah,
Give us your full in-depth final thoughts. Encompassing.
I'm not gonna lie, I did come into this with a couple of complaints about the game, but surprisingly, and this does happen, my rating kind of evolves through the conversation, because there's things we talk about and there's things that, you know, I didn't notice myself. It expands on the first game so well, and it told us a story that, you know, was halfway expected, but mostly not. And the way that they went about telling the story was ridiculous in the best ways possible. It was like the entire human experience is all in this one game,
which is crazy.
Like literally every emotion that a person could go through is encompassed and explained and fleshed out in this game through its characters and its dialogue. And it really speaks a lot of volumes about, like you said, Ursel, the way that video games are as a storytelling medium and what they can be. I touched on it a little before, but like literally it's less expensive to make a game on this scale than it would be to make a TV show doing the exact same thing on the same scale, because of the CGI and everything that would be needed to pull off something like this with real people. It's incredible. The gameplay, the graphics, the storytelling, the music, all of the check boxes that you'd need to check off for a great game are here and more. And a lot of the complaints people have are things that wouldn't even be in other games at all. There's things that people have complained about with The Last of Us 2 that wouldn't even be a thought. Like, dude, they do so much. It's so ambitious. It's an epic story, and they do all of it so well. And yes, you know, there's not going to be any one person that's going to be happy with all the story decisions in a game, in a movie, in a TV show. Nothing is perfect, because we all have different opinions on stuff. Like, I wish Abby would have died, but and that was going to be my reason for knocking down the score, is that I didn't agree with how the story ended. But there's just so much more to it than that. So I think I'd be cheating myself and my own validity of my ratings if I did give it a less than a 10. So for me, The Last of Us 2, although I don't agree 100% with the direction they went in the last 20, 30 minutes of the game, I think that the rest of the 99% of the game is beautiful, and it says a ton about the human experience, and it's one of the most raw experiences I've ever had. And like you guys, I'm going to remember it for the rest of my life. Easy 10 out of 10. ControllerCast certified banger. All four.
Our
give
second
10 out of 10.
unanimous decision is on the second Last of Us.
I was not expecting a across the board
Ooh.
10 out of 10 for the two Last of Us games are sitting at the top of our ranking. Guys, can we just think about how fucking crazy video games are? Can we appreciate that for a second? Like, dude, imagine when we were playing fucking Mario Kart or something. I don't know, Mega Man. That just be the kind of shit we're talking about. Like, I love it. Like, it's...
We started playing video games, and we were playing like what, Madden and Crash Bandicoot. Like, dude, we went from that to shit like this. It's just incredible what they can do nowadays.
Yeah. Like,
Video games used to just be for kids. Now it's for people of all ages that can really dissect a storyline. And this game is meant for those who can think critically and really analyze a story as it goes. And that's how I think games have really evolved lately.
yeah, and I'm sure, like, even off wax, like, we're still gonna be talking about this game. Like, I'm sure next time me and John play Grand Theft Auto or something, we'll be talking about it. Yeah, like,
definitely unpack it even more.
Yeah, it's just wild to me. Like, it's crazy to me to think like some of the best stories I've experienced are video game stories, and it's like, dude, and this is an entire medium that is like completely inaccessible to so many people. Like, I was thinking back, like, John, like Last of Us, like BioShock Infinite, like, dude, these are games with crazy stories, and it's like, imagine if, like, how many cinephiles there are out there who love watching movies for like stories and things like that. Dude, you're missing some of the best stories out there.
Exactly.
Because this, like, that's, it's crazy. Like, and something like The Last of Us 2, like, I can't think of a movie that was this complex.
Or impactful.
Yeah.
Something that I thought about the end of The Last of Us 2, no shit, for like a month after I beat the game. I didn't go to another single player game. I wanted nothing to do with anything story driven. Like, I just had to sit and rest on it for a while. It was that powerful. Yeah. And to have a game do that to you is just, it's unheard of. And I hope that another developer can pull it off. It might only be Naughty Dog, man. It's just Naughty Dog. 2 certified bangers. Last of Us 1 and 2. ControllerCast certified 10 out of 10.
That's insane to me. Do you guys, is Naughty Dog the best
studio? As close as you can get to perfect.
Or is it someone else?
It's got to be Naughty Dog and Rockstar are the two, but Rockstar hasn't put in as many games. So
that's true. Well, yeah, I was 2 to back-to-back 10 out of 10s, guys. That's crazy. And it's The Last was part 1, and The Last was part 2. The ultimate epic saga. Maybe we'll see a Last was part 3 one day, but we'll be there to keep you guys updated on that. That is all. This is going to be a 2-parter. Almost a 5-hour conversation on this game, guys. That's insane to me. But honestly, we could have probably made this another like few hours if we really, really wanted to.
Honestly.
Well, that's it. This our second 10 out of 10. And we will, we'll see where things go in terms of July. There might be a bit of a hiatus because we're all kind of very busy, but this will be a 2-parter. But at worst case scenario, we'll see you guys in August, and we'll be ready to keep the ball rolling. So, thanks everyone. That's Ursel signing off. Great discussion. Nice 2-part episode, guys.
Yep. This is John signing off. Thank you guys for listening. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and share as always. We appreciate it.
Remember to play The Last of Us 1 and 2. Do not the absolute masterpieces. If you
have a PS4, do it.
If you watch these videos and you have not played these games, you're doing yourself a disservice. Play right now.
See you guys.
Peace out.
See ya.
Signing off.
Signing off.